Hey everybody, welcome back to our new light activation for Elul. This is day 7. It's the 7th of Elul. I really hope that you are taking at least a few nuggets for yourself and actually using them for your life. There's so much here. It's true that we're just scratching the surface, but in each session there are tools, there's light, there's wisdom, there's a path forward, there are practical exercises, fairy dust that will allow you, if you even take advantage of one nugget, will allow you to use the energy of Elul. The king is in the field, revealing the essence of self. Ani lidodi, I am to my beloved, vidodi li, and my beloved is to me. You'll be able to tap into this energy in a way that will be absolutely transformational for you. And it's even more than that. It's not just about transforming your life from like a flat field, but as you are transforming your life, as you're transforming your thinking, as you're transforming your speaking, as you're transforming your action, as you're transforming what you connect to, your habits, even if it's one baby step per day, you're creating vessels that when Rosh Hashanah comes and the world is recreated with a punch, with a force, with a new destiny, you will be positioned to help be a catalyst for a new light into the world and to receive that light into your own world. So this is really, really, really important. Okay, so what I want to talk about today briefly is the divine blueprint, divine consciousness. So the world was created, as Authentic Kabbalah explains, the world was created by virtue of the fact that God first revealed infinite light and then contracted and concealed that light to make a space in which it appears dark. It's not actually dark, the light is concealed, but the God's presence is there, but concealed. So that's like the womb of creation. In Hebrew, it's called Chalal Rekan, or Makom Panui, an empty space, like a womb of creation. So in this space, it's possible. When I say this space, I mean the space of all the universe, the multiverse, where God's light is actually hidden to a greater or lesser degree, most of all in the physical world, but that space creates the possibility, which is necessary for creation, for there to be an experience, a perception of something that isn't all there is. So we've talked about how the core principle of reality is Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing here but the one. There's only God. There's nothing else. So how is it that I exist, you exist, the bookshelf exists, planes exist, mosquitoes exist? How is it that souls exist, how is it that all these things exist if there's nothing but one? We live in a universe, a multiverse of infinite diversity. And that is because of this empty space where God's light is concealed. It allows us to have infinite numbers of perspectives that are simply one lens on the ultimate truth. Most of the truth is hidden. A little bit of the truth is revealed. Often that little bit of truth that's revealed is revealed through a very distorted, dirty lens as well. Beyond the scope of today, but very, very fascinating, very important to know. But what I want to say today is that inside of that empty space where divine light is concealed, there shines a ray of light and divine consciousness. Where is that ray of light primarily? Where is that divine consciousness primarily available in this world of concealment? The core nature of the world being that God is hiding, like that hand in the puppet, animating the puppet, but the puppet shape is hiding the hand. That's what the world is like. So where do we find the truth? Where do we have access to something higher, to something real in this universe of concealment? That is in the divine blueprint, which is the Torah, which is simultaneously the map into which God looked, his own design for the universe, and our user's manual, the owner's manual for human being, for human living in this world. Now, the Torah was first downloaded, existed before, but not in a written, cohesive level. It was first downloaded in its current form by Moses on Mount Sinai to the Jewish people, the carriers of the Torah, on behalf of all of humanity. It hasn't been possible to share the Torah with all of humanity in previous generations for the last couple thousand years of exile, because part of the whole process has been that Jews have been persecuted, tortured, exiled, and killed for even learning Torah, much less sharing it. But that, thank God, has changed because we are now in the redemption process. And that's why I and many other people are now out here sharing, because the time has come. And when the door is open, that's our mission. That's my mission. Okay, so the Torah was revealed, was downloaded, the 5 books of Moses, the Bible, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth, that Bible, with a complex sequence of codes. So Moses also received these codes that allowed his successive generations of students who were taught appropriately in accordance with the laws of Moses, the Das Moshe. So those codes enabled those trained and certified students to decode deeper and deeper levels of the Torah. In the time of the Roman conquest of Jerusalem, close to 2,000 years ago, a famous sage lived called Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He wrote the Zohar, which is the classical text of Kabbalah, of authentic Kabbalah. And he said about that Zohar, which he downloaded when he was hiding in a cave for 13 years with his son, hiding from the Romans who were trying to kill them. Usual story, typical story for those who carry the Torah. It has been until now. Hopefully it's changing. It is changing. Hopefully it's changing completely. So he said about his teachings that with this book, with this Torah, with these teachings, the Jewish people could be redeemed from exile with mercy, with compassion. And as I said, the Jewish people have received the Torah on behalf of all humanity, have elaborated it, have worked with the codes, have kept it, have made it alive through their own lives, through their own experience, their own commitment, their own daily living in the context of this divine consciousness. So the Torah exists on many levels. One level is it tells us the story, like the Bible. There are other levels that elaborate that story in accordance with the code, the hidden secrets. Then there are deeper levels. There's a level of the law, which applies in one way to the Jewish people who have a certain level of commitment, and another way to the nations of the world. Laws and divine instructions that allow the world to become a place that can sustain life, that can sustain humanity, and ultimately that can reveal goodness and godliness. That's the purpose of the laws and the rest of the Torah. Now that we have reached this deeper level, starting really in the middle of the 1700s, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, who was the founder of the Hasidic movement, he received the teachings on a deeper level, on a more prophetic level, and from his time on, from the middle of the 1700s, the mid-18th century, I guess, till now, that deepest level of Torah that has been revealed to the leaders of the generation, that central soul of every generation, the one in the generation, or perhaps few in the generation, that deepest level is called the Torah Shel Mashiach, the Torah of the Messianic Torah, the Torah of redemption. And that's the Torah that I learn and teach. And that Torah is that level, that deepest level of Torah. It's just a deeper level revealed, continuously deeper levels of divine consciousness revealed in the world. That level is designed to be a transmission, not just instructions, but an actual divine transmission. It's described as a divine embrace, which it says that it creates a union between the person learning it and the creator, like no other union that exists, because the creator's mind, divine consciousness embedded in the Torah, is, as you learn it, permeates your mind. Your mind, like a sponge begins to be saturated with literal divine consciousness. It's a process because the mind is not initially so receptive to it. But like water that bounces off a sponge, each drop makes the mind more receptive and more receptive. So as you go, you can absorb more. And as you absorb more, you can absorb more. And that literally ultimately saturates your brain with godliness, with an awareness that's an awareness of the soul. And it also is a transmission of power, of awareness and power that will allow you, and wisdom that will allow you to walk forward in these, especially as we reach the climax of this process, when the world is in such a state of change, chaos and change. So this consciousness doesn't only change your intellect, but it actually transmits. It's a direct encounter with God that transmits divine information, wisdom, and potential and power to you to walk in the ways of the blueprint, to actually become a co-creator. There's nothing else that can do this. As I said in the beginning, of this live stream, there's that God hid his light in order to make space for the universe. And into that empty, so to speak, empty space, that space of extreme, intense concealment, God gave us the blueprint. He gave us access to divine consciousness and wisdom and power and the path forward in the language of man, in the structures of the physical world. So I want to read to you. I've shown this book. I've shown people this book quite a few times when I've gone on Facebook Lives. This is the premier text that I personally teach. It's not the only thing I teach, but it's a foundation because this book is called Shar HaYichud. It's by the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Middle Rebbe, called Shar HaYichud, which means the gate of unity. Guess what? The name of my business is The Gate of Unity, named after this book. And it literally is the gate to divine unity. In other words, your personality, your consciousness can ultimately blend with divine consciousness, which will change your emotions, which will change your action, which will change your co-creative powers. It changes the actual physical brain. It increases the surface area of the brain if you learn it deeply. There are many things that it does, but I just want to read you the few lines in the preface, just so you understand what it's about. So this book is written for every single person, every human. Torah is for everyone who God granted consciousness and the ability to use the right brain to be aware of things that are higher, lahaskil, lahavin, and to use the left brain to integrate, to analyze, and to incorporate that higher consciousness into your brain, the physical brain, into your heart, into your body. B'yichud elokus, b'yichud ilah, b'yichud tata. And what is this divine information that we're integrating, that this gives us the power, this is for, in order to help us integrate? The divine unity, the unity of godliness on the higher realms, in the spiritual worlds, and in the lower realms, the lower unity. The Pasuk Rishon, as is described in the first line of the cardinal prayer that the Jewish people say, which is called Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. So that is an instruction. It's not just a prayer, but it's actually the instruction to the core of the soul to understand and to connect to the oneness of God. Ubaruch Shem Kvod Malchuso Li'olam Va'ed, and also to bring this awareness of the oneness of God, the reality of God in this physical world, the reality of God, to be totally aware of it, to know it, to integrate it, to internalize it, and then to bring it into the world, into life. That's what this text is for. Each person according to his ability, his own mental tendencies, his own intellect, his ability to understand, his way of understanding, and his own emotional status, his heart, and his consciousness, his sense of personal reality, his or her. That's all I'm going to read of that right now. But I just want to present that because you cannot have a conversation, an ongoing conversation about creating new vessels, about connecting with the king in the field, about rectifying the past or preparing for a completely new future. We can't have a meaningful conversation long-term about redemption, about soul, if we don't really found it and base it on God's consciousness. The world is created with a purpose. The world is created with a plan. The world is created with a destiny. And each one of us, in every generation, in every incarnation, but especially now that we're reaching the climax of this birth process. If you think 2020, Tafshin Pei, 5780 on the Hebrew calendar, has been quite turbulent and interesting, so it's just going to accelerate a lot more. It's starting in a couple of weeks, actually even leading up to that. So the more you can align, like I said yesterday, the more you can align, and maybe I'll talk more about this tomorrow, about how to do that with prayer, but the more you can align yourself, your consciousness, your actions, the way that you see things, the frame through which you view reality, and your own sense of purpose, being a part of this. Everybody who's here today has a special role to play. If you're here right now on the planet, it's not just like every other time. It's not even like last year. It's because you have a crucial role to play. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be out online influencing people. Maybe you will, but that's up to you. But to align yourself, to understand your purpose, to work with your own inner darkness, like I talked about yesterday, that you are the center, you are a consciousness center in the vast web, to upgrade that, to upgrade your perceptions, so that your soul's perceptions can permeate your mind. That's what we're just talking about now. To upgrade your emotions so that you can be clear and proactive and focused and on target, intentional, moving forward, being drawn toward a vision rather than just reacting and trying to fight for your status quo, for the comfort zone. So that is purpose. That's a huge part of purpose for everyone. So if you're here now, it's because you're here with that purpose. So it behooves you, from whatever source you resonate with, to start to permeate, to imbue your mind with divine consciousness. That will change everything. The deeper that you can connect, it's not, it's one thing just to hear inspirational talks like this one and so many others that are online. It's another thing to actually engage with sacred texts. As I said, it's a complete union between you and God. God is inside of you. His consciousness is inside of you, and you are inside of his embrace as you embrace his blueprint and his purpose. So that is the ultimate union, and that is the ultimate path, primary path to transformation, supported by the work that we do on our hearts and on our actions to align with that. We continue to talk about that throughout the LO 30 days. Okay, that is the main thing that I wanted to say. If you're interested in deeper learning and engaging in the sacred text, I put the website where you can sign up for the Gate of Unity School. Feel free to check that out. We're going to be putting some sample classes up soon, but we're moving actually in like less than 2 weeks, a week and a half, so it's kind of busy around here, but we're going to get to it as soon as possible. In any case, I welcome you there. I welcome you here, and sending many, many blessings for the ultimate transformation so that divine consciousness becomes human consciousness expands and becomes divine. And at that point, and even on the way to that, you don't have to get all the way there. It's an infinite process. But when we get there enough so that things change for us and we truly are able to co-create, we're truly able to see a lot more like, the truth about everything's happening. We can connect to the inner rather than just the outer. We can proactively work on transformation every day. We can feel the presence of God as a loving, blessing, supporting, intimate force, infinite intimate force. The king is in the field. Melech Basadeh. That's so available right now. And we can use the energy of right now to make it available all the time. That's part of that's a big part of what making the new vessels is all about. So as we do that, we don't have to get so much farther before everything will shift. Sometimes that's just that last little piece of wiring that's in the system, and then all you have to do is dip the light switch and all the lights go on. That's what we're aiming, that's what we're heading toward. But the more aligned, the more conscious, the more connected, the more union there is, Gate of Unity, the more peaceful, sublime, as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, to be redeemed from this exile with mercy, compassion, and really glory, magnificence. That's really what we're going for here. Okay, leave it at that. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.